Zandvoort delivered a qualifying result that Ferrari did not want. Lewis Hamilton finished qualifying in P5, while teammate Charles Leclerc landed in P6. Both cars were locked into the third row of the grid, roughly 0.3 seconds off the pole time set by Lando Norris, who claimed pole position with a lap of 1 to 11.163.4 Hamilton. The core problem was tire preparation. Unlike his rivals, who needed only a single preparation lap to bring their tires into the correct working range, Hamilton required two. Speaking about the issue afterward, Hamilton called the situation nuts. The extra preparation lap cost him track position and rhythm at a circuit where a single tenth of a second separates multiple rows of the grid. Leclerc's difficulty was different in nature. Between Q2 and Q3, changes were made to the power mode settings on his car. Those adjustments altered how the car responded underneath him, disrupting the feel he had built up through the earlier stages of qualifying. The timing of the change meant Leclerc had to adapt to a different car balance with almost no time to recalibrate before his final qualifying runs. Team principal Fred Vasseur framed the session as one where the car itself had race pace potential that was not reflected in the qualifying result. According to Vasseur, the execution in qualifying undercut what the SF25 was actually capable of over a single lap. This framing set up the narrative for race day. If Ferrari's long-run pace was genuinely strong, Sunday's race offered a chance to recover the ground lost on Saturday. Reports from the weekend indicated Ferrari's long-run data was comparatively strong, positioning the race as a redemption opportunity rather than a continuation of Saturday's setback. Max Verstappen's race lasted less than one lap. On lap 1, contact at turn 3 ended his afternoon, following an early battle for position with Liam Lawson. The clash between the two cars at the start ultimately proved terminal for Verstappen's race, removing the reigning form leader from contention almost immediately after the lights went out. Lawson, who was standing in for the injured Isaac Hadjar, became Red Bull's only finisher of the race, crossing the line in P7. In qualifying, Lawson had been just a tenth of a second off Verstappen's time, a notable margin given that Lawson was stepping into a car and a race weekend on short notice. Leaked radio communication from the session added detail to the lap 1 incident. Lawson's reaction to Verstappen's move on track was reported as sarcastic, and radio data reportedly included a comparison of apex speeds between Lawson and Hamilton during the incident, suggesting Lawson had matched or approached Hamilton's cornering speed at the point of contact. This radio exchange became one of the more discussed details from the race, offering a rare direct look at how the collision unfolded from inside the cockpit. Team principal Laurent Mekies praised Lawson for the way he handled an unfamiliar car on short notice. Stepping into a race seat without extended preparation time is difficult under any circumstances, and Lawson converting that opportunity into Red Bull's only point-scoring finish of the weekend was treated as a significant marker of his current form. The performance raises a question that extends beyond this single race weekend. Does a result like this factor into how Red Bull and its junior program view Lawson's positioning for 2027, a year in which the driver market and regulatory cycle are both expected to shift significantly? A strong showing under pressure, in a car he had limited time to adapt to, is the kind of data point teams weigh heavily when evaluating drivers for future seats. While Red Bull dealt with Verstappen's early exit, Williams experienced a collapse of its own. Carlos Sainz finished the race in P16, while teammate Alexander Albon retired after a late clash between the two Williams cars. Sainz was handed a 10-second penalty as a result of the incident, compounding what was already a difficult result for the team. Sainz did not soften his assessment of where Williams currently stands. According to his post-race comments, Williams is now positioned in the pecking order ahead of only Cadillac, a blunt acknowledgement of how far the team has slipped relative to its midfield rivals this season. Context for that decline points directly at Aston Martin. The team introduced a significant upgrade package at the Hungary round, and arrived at Zandvoort with a new engine step from Honda. The combination translated into results, with Fernando Alonso finishing the Dutch Grand Prix in P9. The underlying technical driver behind Aston Martin's improvement has been traced to aerodynamic development work led by Adrian Newey on the AMR26, the team's current car. Newey's involvement, since joining Aston Martin, has been closely tied to the car's development trajectory, and the results at Zandvoort were read as evidence of that work translating into on-track performance. For Williams, the timing of this decline carries added weight. Sainz signed a new contract with the team, and no major upgrade package is scheduled for Williams until races adjacent to Baku and Monza. That gap leaves the team facing several race weekends without a clear technical response to Aston Martin's recent gains, turning what might otherwise be treated as a single bad weekend into a longer-term competitive concern. Away from the race itself, one of the weekend's biggest storylines centered on a contract that was not signed. Verstappen held an exit clause in his Red Bull contract that could be activated based on his position in the championship standings. That clause became active because Verstappen was sitting in 6th place in the standings at the relevant point in the season, a position low enough to trigger the option built into his contract. Despite the clause being active, Verstappen turned down the opportunity to move to McLaren. Financial terms reported around his current Red Bull deal help explain part of that decision. Verstappen's contract is reported to include a base salary of approximately €92 million per season, with the 4-year package potentially exceeding €500 million in total value, extending through 2030. Beyond the financial terms, Ralf Schumacher offered an argument centered on trust and technical dependency. Schumacher's position is that McLaren's reliance on Mercedes power units carries risk, specifically the possibility that Mercedes does not fully share engine mapping and telemetry data with customer teams the way it would with its own works operation. Under that argument, a move to McLaren would have placed Verstappen inside a team dependent on an external engine supplier for critical performance data, a dynamic he does not currently face at Red Bull with its Red Bull powertrains operation. That argument, however, comes with a caveat worth noting directly. Schumacher's credibility on Verstappen-related contract claims took a hit earlier when Jos Verstappen publicly disputed an earlier claim Schumacher had made regarding a reported Mercedes offer. Given that history, Schumacher's account of the McLaren trust issue should be treated as one perspective on the situation rather than a confirmed or settled fact. What remains open heading into Monza is whether Red Bull's current 2026 form ultimately makes this decision look premature. Verstappen turned down a move to a team that has shown strong competitive form this season, choosing instead to remain with a team whose season has included races like Zandvoort, where the car did not finish. Whether that choice is validated or questioned will depend heavily on how Red Bull's performance develops through the remainder of the season, and the answer to that question is still unfolding on track.